You know that moment, the front door closes, you drop your keys on the counter, and it's just you. For a long, long time, that moment was seen as, just a temporary thing, a stop on the way to something else. But that idea is changing, and it's changing fast. Today, we're going to talk about living solo not as a waiting room, but as a destination. A really significant and growing lifestyle choice that millions of people are making. This is all about how to go from just surviving on your own to truly deeply thriving in your independence.
Okay, let's just dive right into the numbers, because they tell a really fascinating story. If you go back to 1970, only about 1 in 6 households in the US were single-person households. Now, fast forward to 2022, and that number has shot up to nearly 1 in 3. Whoa, that is not a small shift. That's a massive change in our social landscape. So what does that mean? It means if you're living alone, you are part of one of the biggest social trends of our time. You are not an outlier, you're at the very forefront of a huge evolution in how we live.
And this isn't just some dry statistic, right? This represents a fundamental transformation in how we think about independence, what personal fulfillment even means, and what a good, satisfying life actually looks like. It's being driven by all kinds of things. Economic independence, people living longer, and just a greater social acceptance that living alone is a powerful and totally legitimate choice. It's a real move towards self-determination.
But, and it's a big but, this path comes with a huge challenge, something we can call the independence paradox. See, on one hand, you have total amazing freedom. You control the remote, the thermostat, what's for dinner every single night. You can literally paint a wall bright orange on a whim and nobody can say a thing. But on the other hand, you have total responsibility. Every single dish, every bill, every time the internet decides to die, every single difficult moment, it all lands right on your shoulders. And figuring out how to navigate this paradox, that is the absolute key to a fulfilling solo life.
Now, this is a really interesting distinction because it gets right to the heart of the whole experience. Let's talk about solitude. Solitude is a choice. It's when you're alone and it feels good, restorative, creative, peaceful. It's that space you carve out for yourself to figure things out. Loneliness, though, that's a painful feeling. It's the gap between the social connection you want and the connection you have. So the goal isn't to never be alone. The goal is to intentionally create moments of solitude and to skillfully manage loneliness when it decides to show up.
And that feeling of loneliness is very, very real. Data from Gallup shows that about 1 in 5 US adults feel it every single day. But here's the crucial part. Living alone does not automatically mean you'll be lonely. In fact, study after study shows that tons of people who live by themselves report really high levels of life satisfaction. The difference maker? It's all about being intentional about your connections, both with other people and, just as importantly, with yourself.
And this table just lays out the emotional landscape so perfectly. The highs are incredible, right? That pure freedom from having to compromise on anything, the quiet space to really figure out who you are without all the external noise, and that immense pride you feel knowing, hey, I got this, I'm self-sufficient. But the challenges are just as real. That weight of responsibility can feel so heavy sometimes. Moments of isolation can creep in, and, facing a really tough day all by yourself, that takes a special kind of strength.
So this really brings us to the core question. For you, when you think about your own experience, does it feel like you are actively thriving in your independence? Or does it sometimes feel a little more like you're just getting by, just surviving? Being really honest with yourself right here is the very first step toward intentionally designing a solo life that is way more fulfilling.
So how do we actually make that shift? How do we go from surviving to thriving? Well, there's a clear, actionable framework for success. We're calling it the Solo Thriving Blueprint. Think of it as a structured approach to move from simply living alone to creating a life where you absolutely flourish, all on your own terms.
And here's the key thing. Thriving isn't about luck. It's about intentional design. And that design is built on these 3 powerful pillars. First, you've got to master your mindset. That's your internal foundation. Second, you design your space. That's the external environment that supports you. And third, you build your systems. Those are the daily habits that create structure and give you momentum. Let's break them down.
All right, pillar number 1, mastering your mindset. It all starts with this idea of emotional resilience. Think of it like your own personal psychological shock absorber. It's not about never feeling down or stressed. It's about your ability to bounce back from challenges, to process your emotions in a healthy way, and to adapt to change without totally losing your center. For anyone living alone, this isn't just a nice skill to have, it's the absolute bedrock for a thriving life. And here is a beautifully simple, super practical tool you can use to build that resilience. Anytime you're facing a problem alone and it just feels huge and overwhelming, use the 10-10-10 rule. Just ask yourself, How am I going to feel about this in 10 minutes? Probably still pretty annoyed or stressed, right? Okay. How about in 10 months? It'll likely be a distant memory. And in 10 years, it'll almost certainly be completely irrelevant. This simple practice creates instant perspective, which is just priceless when you don't have someone else there to give it to you.
Okay, on to our second pillar, design your space. When you live alone, your home is so much more than just a place to sleep. I mean, it's your office, your gym, your movie theater, your retreat, it's everything. It has this profound impact on your mood and your well-being. So it really needs to be a sanctuary that recharges you, a functional space that supports your goals, and maybe most importantly, a true reflection of who you actually are.
And these two images just capture that difference perfectly. I mean, just look at the feeling these two spaces give you. The one on the left feels heavy, chaotic, kind of draining, right? The one on the right feels calm, open, and supportive. The exact same amount of space can either work against your well-being or it can actively nurture it. And the power to make that choice, to design a space that lifts you up, that is entirely in your hands.
So how do you actually do that, especially if you're in a smaller home? Here are 3 simple, really powerful ideas. First, think vertically. Your floor space is limited, sure, but your walls offer so much opportunity for storage and just making the space your own. Second, get into multifunctional furniture, like an ottoman that's also a storage chest or a dining table that can expand. Every single piece should earn its keep. And third, try the one in, one out rule. For every new thing you bring into your home, one thing has to go. It's a dead simple system to stop clutter from taking over.
This brings us to our third and final pillar, build your systems. And this one is so important. When you don't have a roommate or a partner whose schedule kind of gives a natural structure to your day, your own habits become everything. They really are the invisible architecture holding your life together, for better or for worse. Without good systems, freedom can quickly turn into just floating around aimlessly. But with them, that freedom becomes focused and really productive.
A fantastic way to build a positive system is by creating a golden hour for yourself every single morning. This is the first hour after you wake up and you dedicate it entirely to things that nourish you before the world starts making demands. You can think of it in 3 parts. For your body, start with a big glass of water and some light movement. For your mind, maybe a few minutes of mindfulness or just planning out your day. And for your spirit, practicing gratitude or connecting with your core values. This one routine can set a positive tone for your entire day.
Another key system is your nutrition, because it can be so easy to just fall into a habit of takeout or sad snacks when you're only cooking for yourself, right? The solution is to completely reframe it. Instead of a chore, think of cooking as a non-negotiable act of self-care. Things like batch cooking, preparing core ingredients on a Sunday to mix and match all week, or practicing mindful dining by setting a proper table even when it's just for you, can completely transform your relationship with food and your own well-being. So as we bring all this together, the big takeaway is this. Thriving while living solo is not something that just happens to you. It is the result of a deliberate, intentional choice to design a life that truly works for you. It's an active process of self-discovery and taking radical ownership of your own happiness and your own well-being. So where do you start, like right now? Here are 3 super simple things you can do in the next 48 hours. First, do a quick space audit. Just walk through your home and identify one thing that drains your energy and one thing that gives you energy. Second, create an emotional first aid kit. Just a list of 2 or 3 specific things you can do when you're feeling low. And third, implement a tiny 5-minute morning ritual. Just one small thing done consistently to prove to yourself that you are in the driver's seat.
Ultimately, this whole journey of living alone is about so much more than just your address. It's a path to a deeper understanding of yourself, a path to true autonomy. It's all about creating a strong, self-reliant home base from which you can go out and engage with the world on your own terms, with confidence and a profound sense of freedom.
Henry David Thoreau wrote that over 150 years ago, but it just perfectly captures the spirit of the modern solo journey. You might not be in a cabin in the woods, but that core desire, it's exactly the same, to live deliberately, to really experience life and to learn what independence has to teach. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what does living deliberately mean to you?